Hello and welcome on back to episode 95 of the top 5 PvP battles. If you guys want to send in your own clips for the top 5, be sure to send them to KristoferESO@hotmail.com. And starting us off today, we have got the God Deity on his Magicka Necromancer. And as you guys can see, he's already picked up 2 kills on the flag, the late blast bones there. And he just throws down his healing tethers and starts feeding the lower hit point player. Force pulses there, the enemy player going into the dodge and the vigor, and God Deity decides to just back up, reset his tether, reset the blast bones as well, and there we see a huge combo come down with the graveyard synergy into the blast bones. 2 more red players going down on the stack, and the God Deity just trying to pick off this last player as he tries to sprint away, and just like that, he's got just the werewolf left on top of him. Wow, you guys have been playing a lot of MagCrow. At least you've been sending me a lot of MagCrow clips. And I think I understand why. Godly Deity just showing us how powerful the MagCrow can be, especially when his opponents jump on top of him and he sets that big trap with the self-synergy graveyard. And here you can see he's just wearing down this enemy werewolf. The werewolf is thrown in actually quite a bit of damage to Godly Deity here, but now he's got him on the back pedal, feeds him that last force pulse, and down he goes. A really quick clean wipe. Next up, we've got NastYyc on his stamina Dragonknight, and he's heading towards an enemy keep here and just fighting his way up the hill. The first player goes for that counter leap, and Nasty just keeps the pressure on top, finishes him with that executioner, and he moves on to the next target, hitting him with the poison injection into the breath, and then he goes for a big leap, the dots finishing off the player at the end of the leap there. And Nasty moves forward to the rest of the red players that are on the siege here. And it looks like Nasty's actually on the blue team here. And he's fighting where the other 2 factions are trying to do a bit of a siege. So he's got no friendly players to help him out here, but putting good damage into these red players as they attempt to escape the wall. And yellow players up top raining some arrows down on them and siege as well. And just like that, Nasty is completely wiped out the red group that's trying to take the keep. And 1 yellow player decides to jump outside to burn the siege. Nasty just quickly dots him up, goes for that dizzy swing, hits him with that off-balance stun into the execute as the player goes through the door, but he is dead on the other side there, and unfortunately Nasty gets bombarded by a bit of siege, and a few more red players come riding in, attempting to res some of their dead comrades. And Nasty finds himself very low on hit points here. He's actually taking a lot of abuse from the yellow up top, quickly turns around, leaps on top of the red player, nearly getting a kill, but again getting clipped by a nasty siege smack there. It looked like he got hit by the cold fire, and Nasty just goes into those huge Dragonknight heals, quickly healing up with his vigor and his major mending off the shield there. And then he turns to re-engage with these guys, still eating more siege as he tries to do the fight here. The enemy player landing the stun from behind, and Nasty's just a little lower on resources. He just backs up a little bit, tries to get his buffs reset and gets that heavy attack. Nope, the Nightblade goes into stealth and he ends up missing it. But another friendly player comes in, and the red are getting bombarded by the siege so hard here. Nasty sees the cold fire come down. He leaps on top of that player and then keeps the pressure on the next one, trying to get that execute off. And it looks like the other friendly player there manages to finish him off, and here comes yellow charging out of the gate. They kill Nasty's friendly player. They kill the rest of the red players, and Nasty's still getting hit by these cold fire siege here. Unfortunately, he has to try his best to get out of this location. He does a good kite, just kind of hugging the terrain as best he can to line of sight the enemy players. A majority of them are melee attackers, though, and you see them just pile up around the corner. Nasty retaliates with a big leap there, just kind of breaking the stack up, getting himself a little bit more distance, and he jumps on top of this tricky little piece of rock here. Now, this is a good spot to be because a lot of players fail to make this jump over to where Nasty is, and as you can see, he only has 3 of the 5 yellow on top of him here, as it looked like in the side of the screen, another yellow just jumped in here too on his second try, and Nasty decides, all right, he's not going to be able to hold this. The yellow are piling up real tight on him, so he drops down the side here. Seeing the opponent take the fall damage too, Nasty quickly leaps on top of him, goes for that executioner, and one of the yellow brought down by some poor decision making there, and Nasty's just going to try to dot up the player that's going for the res, and he, I think, wants to try to get this kill, but more yellow players coming around the corner. He gets a good AoE splash with his breath there, just kind of debuffing everyone, hitting them with the dot. One of the players actually very low hit points. Nasty gets the executioner to finish him off, goes for that retaliatory leap, and unfortunately he just couldn't make the bash to the enemy player there in time. and Nasty goes for a little bit of a kite around the side of the rocks, resetting all his buffs, and the yellow train is right behind him. All of these guys whipping out dizzy swings. They've got the beetles flying out from the Wardens. Good little bit of movement there from Nasty after he got himself a little trapped in that corner, just kind of backstepping behind them, avoiding all of that AoE. And I like his movement here. He's doing a great job just trying to keep these guys turning around, but unfortunately, they're dumping all the Dawnbreakers and everything, and eventually Nasty goes down, but a great run nonetheless. And moving on to our next clip, we have got Giovanni Valentino bringing us some more Magicka Necromancer. And he's got a whole bunch of yellow players just kind of piled up here. And Giovanni at the top of the rocks here, just feeding them a few blast bones. Just trying his best to actually put a little bit of damage, kind of ignoring the Templar behind him, just out healing it with those passive heal over time that the Necro has. Throws down that tether as well. The combination of that ghost and the tether on a MagCrow can be such incredible healing power. And Giovanni just showing us by tanking out the damage right in the middle of this stack. And there he throws the meteor down. The blast bones is coming in. A big explosion there. One of the yellow players go down to the Force Pulse combo on top, and Giovanni just goes right back into Turtle with his sword and board, blocking, getting a little bit of line of sight using the bottom of the hill there, and then he just whips right around the corner, preventing that player from getting the res with his bash, and Giovanni just tanking it out. Huge amounts of healing power on his MagCrow. But he can't just sit there for too long. He drops down the side here again, coming back up the rocks. This bit of rotation here is going to buy him a little bit of respite from the damage, also allowing him to break a bit of distance from the group, getting that bash off, preventing the res. And again, Giovanni goes for another loop around the rocks. These yellow are very determined on picking up that player there, and Giovanni just feeds them blast bones and force pulses. Another player goes down there, and he just throws down his tether heal again. He's got his ghost heal as well, and he wants to put some pressure on the next target. He drops the meteor, the blast bones comes in, the enemy player just gets to some huge healing shields in time there as more yellow player come crawling over the hill here. And the yellow players just keep applying pressure. They throwing down a lot of stuns too, but Giovanni just doing a great job keeping his defenses very strong here and just being patient, waiting for his opportunity to get a good bomb, and conserving resources with those cheeky little sword and board heavy attacks as well. And he drops down the side here, trying to pull the yellow group apart a little bit, and now I think he wants to try to go for a kill. They have managed to res one of the dead players here, and Giovanni's just kind of feeding them blast bones, keeping a bit of pressure on everybody here. He manages to get a good stun on this player. A blast bones connects, and there's the final force pulse, and he manages to bring him down. Again, going right back into pressure on top of the rest of the yellow. The meteor comes down, another blast bones into the force pulse combo, and another yellow down on top of the rocks. This guy still trying to res everybody here. Giovanni gets the bash, unfortunately very low on stamina here, switches back to his other bar and just starts feeding people counter stuns. The Templar comes in though, hits him with the stun. Fortunately, Giovanni did get the potion in time there, so he's got a lot of stamina to spare now. And he's just going to start looking for a good target here as he tries to defend the bodies. There's a lot of corpses on the stack there, so Giovanni has pretty much a limitless source of healing over time as long as he holds his ground in this position. And it looks like these yellow players are having a lot of trouble just beating through his raw healing power. Giovanni doing a great mix of everything to stay alive. He's blocking, he's rolling, and the yellow players are constantly applying more pressure. He drops down the side again, and it looks like he's not going to be able to make that jump up the side there. I think he was just snared and he wasn't able to get the jump. And now the yellow players start following him around the side. This is good though. He only has 3 yellow on top of him here. He's managed to get a good split from the group, and he drops the meteor again into the blast bones. The force pulse comes in with the fire staff knockback, and one yellow player going down there. And Giovanni right away moving to the next target. There's a couple yellow up on the rock behind him, also hitting him with some attacks, and throwing down a lot of heals for the friendly yellow players here. And Giovanni getting hit by that time stop. And he sees this guy going for the res again. He just quickly hits him with that bash, throws down a few force pulses and the blast bones. A good combo on that player there. Unfortunately, Giovanni got hit by a counter stun from another yellow, so he's just going to reset his tethers again. And I think he just wants to hold these bodies. These yellow are trying so hard to get the res. It's very distracting to them, and it just allows Giovanni to have a little bit less pressure on him as long as there are some yellow that are concerned about picking the bodies up. and he just keeps trying to find a good target. He's feeding this guy a lot of damage. The Blast Bones comes in. The enemy player just dying at the end of the combo there. Giovanni throws down the Blast Bones and then quickly turns back to the player that's attempting the res. And there's still a couple yellow up on that rock, but Giovanni's ignoring them, just going for this tankier yellow player there. And he actually sped the clip up a bit here to show him eventually getting the kill on this guy. And you can see this enemy Templar just hanging on at 1% health, quickly healing back up. And Giovanni just keeps feeding him Blast Bones. And I'll be honest, this is some really amazing gameplay that I'm seeing from you guys on your Mag Necromancers. So congrats, Giovanni, taking that fight home eventually. Now, moving on to our next clip, we have got Riccardo Nardone, and he's playing some Stamina Warden inside a resource tower here. And you can see one red player has followed him up to the top. Riccardo quickly feeds him the beetles into the dizzy swing there and brings that player down. Another red player comes around the corner. More red players just starting to pour in here, and Riccardo is trying to hold his ground. The negate comes down, though. He has to get out of that. He starts working his way back up to the top of the tower, quickly healing up using the combination of the hit point Warden heal and vigor there. And then he engages with the 3 red players that are at the top with him here. He throws down that subterranean assault. There's a big Dawnbreaker into the Executioner. One player goes down, but Riccardo finds himself very low on hit points. Does a really good jump there. That's a fantastic move to break distance from the group in a tower, because a lot of players will not make that jump behind you. And Riccardo finds himself with a lot of space behind the tower to just reset, get some health back, and get his resources back. And as the red come around the corner, Riccardo feeds the first guy a subterranean assault into the dizzy swing, and he goes down. He gets his next subterranean ready. There's a huge Dawnbreaker there, and he goes for the Executioner, and the second bit of subterranean spinning out to deal a bit more damage at the end. One red player going down, and the other one, I think, just jumped off the edge. I'm not sure if he went down to fall damage there. And Riccardo right away focusing on the rest of the players on top of him. A huge subterranean crit there into the Execute, and then the last lower level player there just getting dropped by his subterranean assault as well. And more players come around the corner. Again, Riccardo, a big subterranean assault into the Dawnbreaker. One of the players goes down. The other one jumps off the edge, attempting to save himself, but Riccardo follows him off the edge now. He's killed a ton of red players inside the tower, so he's got a lot less players left to deal with out here. And the amount of coverage he's getting with the subterranean assault, just putting so much damage into all of the players that are attacking him here. And Riccardo just doing his best to kind of absorb the damage. He notices there's too many red players on top of him. He's going to need to take some cover, so he heads down to the side of the rock here and just keeps throwing out his big heals, and he goes for that huge Dawnbreaker into the subterranean. One red player goes down. The Executioner coming in to finish the second red player off, and so much AoE damage there. I'll be honest, I think it helps a lot because he's hitting twice with the subterranean. It just means that when the opponents heal each other, the heal won't always go to the target that Riccardo's going to be taken down. And there you can see he tries to push forward a little more, but a ton of red players on top of those bodies. So he's forced back behind this tree. He just resets his subterranean assault. One single red player followed him behind the trees there. Riccardo feeds him the Dawnbreaker and finishes him off. There you see he hits the bash on that player, attempting the res as the subterranean second hit goes out there too. So he puts good damage into that player. And look at the AoE splashing again. A lot of enemy players here are sitting at about 60-70% health, and it just makes it so easy for Riccardo to set a huge combo on these guys. And he does a great job just continuing to rotate the subterranean assault. There's another Dawnbreaker on the player attempting a res. Riccardo brings him down and then pushes right to the back of the group, hitting the lowest health target in the back there and finishing him off. And now Riccardo starts working on just the last 3 left, I believe. Nope, there's 4 enemy players left, but there was at least 9 players on top of him there. Riccardo putting a lot of damage into that guy, but still taking a lot of damage himself. He quickly heads back behind his tree to get a bit of cover, just spamming his heals here. And only 2 enemy players follow him around. Riccardo actually just sprints right towards the bodies, thinking these red are going to go for another res, and he actually catches one player with a huge Dawnbreaker there, follows up the subterranean into the Execute, and just like that, he has just 2 enemy players left. He starts feeding this guy the dizzy swings into the Execute. The subterranean goes off. Another player goes down. And it looks like one last red player's running in from the back there. Riccardo gets on top of this enemy archer that's been sniping him this whole fight. A big subterranean again. He goes for the Dawnbreaker, but the enemy sprint speed a little bit too much there, and he ends up missing it. and then he jumps on top of this enemy Templar who's attempting to get the res, hits him with a huge combo there. Again, the enemy Templar goes down, and now Riccardo's got down to just 2 enemy players left. He starts feeding this guy the dizzy swings. The enemy player does not respond properly there. Riccardo quickly bringing him down. And now this last Nightblade, he's going to try to sprint away again. There's that Dawnbreaker into the subterranean. Wow, what a fight. And for our last fight here, we have got zDan returning, and he is playing some melee Magblade, and this is an absolute treat because you do not see a lot of melee Magblade around in Cyrodiil. At least I haven't for quite some time. And here we go. zDan jumps on top of these yellow, on top of the resource, and he just starts feeding this guy some Swallow Souls, hits him with the Gap Closer into his ultimate, and that player goes down, and zDan takes a lot of abuse from these guys. He quickly just goes for those powerful Nightblade heal over time, using a lot of roll dodge as well. Looks like he's got some good stam sustain on this guy too, and he just starts feeding this guy big damage. The dual wield sword's actually very strong for a melee Magicka build, thanks to the champion point changes, and you can see zDan hits the bash there and then just starts feeding this guy damage, a huge spectral arrow off of that combo, and that enemy player goes down, and zDan wastes no time. He quickly jumps on top of the next yellow player there, just feeding him damage. He sees a yellow in the back going for that res. He gap closes into him, hits him with that interrupt bash, and then a few surprise attacks, a few concealed weapons to bring him down, and zDan gets the kill there, and he takes a lot of pressure from that yellow player. The enemy Nightblade jumping on top of him gets him with a really good counter stun off of the concealed weapon, and it buys him enough time to just get the healing off from his heals over time, and zDan goes right away for the re-engage. I love how he actually went for the cloak right before he re-engaged to make sure that he has his heal ticking on him as he goes for that combo, and he manages to bring another yellow player down on the pile there. There's 3 bodies on the ground, and zDan just starts working right away on the next target. He's got the mark on the enemy players as well, so he can prevent the Nightblades from stealthing if he needs to, and he just resets his heals really quick here. Throws down a dot on top of this enemy player that's trying to dizzy swing him. He gets hit by the stun, I believe by the Nightblade there, but zDan's healing power on this build is something else. He just keeps those heals rotating. He's able to soak up the damage. The Nightblade jumps on top of him again. zDan responds with the roll, goes into his heal, and then right away gap close into that enemy player, hits him with the tether, and he goes down, and zDan's just going to reset his heals again and re-engage with these guys. Unfortunately, one of the yellow players did manage to get the res off there. zDan gets hit by that Dawnbreaker. He just quickly rolls in one direction and then goes back the other way, keeping pressure up on top of this enemy player, and he manages to finish him off. And zDan just, I love how he's constantly mixing in that cloak heal throughout his combo. Even as he stays aggressive, zDan is making sure that he keeps his heal over time on himself. There's a huge combo on that Nightblade, and he hits him with the Spectral Arrow. The Nightblade just dodges it, but zDan finishes him with that concealed weapon right away. Moving on to the next 2 targets, the Necromancer goes for his ultimate, I think to attempt to get a safer res there, but zDan waits it out, gap closes into him just to bash him, and then moves back on top of the target he's trying to kill. Unfortunately, that player on the second attempt did manage to get that res off, and zDan goes into his healing ult here. He's feeling the pressure from these yellow, and the resource has just flipped for them too, so he doesn't want to eat all of those unnecessary negates, so he heads inside the tower here. 1 yellow player follows him. zDan tries to keep this guy marked, but the enemy player just popping in and out of stealth in between the mark uptime there. A huge combo hits him from behind. zDan responds really well, rolling off the edge, quickly going into his heals, and I love he throws a fresh shade down as well just for safety, and he comes back up the top here going into his Resto Staff heal, and I think zDan wants to be aggressive again, hitting that cloak before he attempts to go for that aggression combo, and he decides to just shade out of there, reset his shade, and re-engage with these guys from a different angle. The enemy player right away leaping on top of him as he comes up the stairs. zDan shades back down to the bottom again. Annoying that he's got that Mender after him. There you can see that undodgeable, unblockable stun is very annoying to deal with, not to mention the potential negate that could come down. And zDan heads to the top of the tower here. He has that safety shade at the bottom, and he throws all his heals down here. A great dodge, dodging the incoming combos, hits them with a big counter tether. One of the players going down to that combo, and zDan just quickly resets his heals over time. The enemy Nightblade jumping on top of him again. zDan taking a lot of damage, a great roll. Unfortunately, his shade is down here, so he doesn't have the safety teleport. and he's getting annoyed by the guards there too. He puts a little bit of damage into the NPC, gets back downstairs, and sets down a fresh shade. And then there's a little bit of a skip there, as I think there was just a bit of rest for everybody, and zDan re-engages with this group of yellow. They hit him with a stun there. The Templar's got all of the AoE pulses going down too, and zDan gets a good stun there with his concealed weapon. Not able to make anything of it though. He's just going to port back to safety, reset his shade again. When you have this many players on you, it is definitely important to keep that shade up. zDan knows that that is his best escape if he finds himself in a really bad spot. And he just resets the dots on these guys. That was a great tether combo as the enemy player was attempting to roll away. Tether being an undodgeable ultimate. zDan almost catches him with that combo, and he's just going to reset his heals and head back up to the top of the tower. And he's leading with those big, heavy attacks on his dual wield bar. I like this for a couple reasons. Not only is that actually going to be some decent damage thanks to the CP changes, but on top of it, it allows zDan to have a lot more stamina to work with and get a lot more roll dodges off. And his movement here is really good. He's making sure to constantly move through his opponents, forcing them to turn around, and that just buys him a little bit more time to get those heals off. He's got that counter tether. He goes for the gap close into the tether, and he hits that player with the surprise attack, the concealed weapon, to finish off another yellow player. This guy right away stands over top of the body holding block. zDan knows that he wants to try to go for that res, and he just puts a bit of pressure on that enemy Templar, and the enemy Templar here drops the Dawnbreaker, a great sidestep by zDan, and he just keeps pressure up on this Dragonknight, eventually hitting him with that stun. The DK just managing to get into the heals in time, and zDan is keeping up the pressure on top of him though, and I believe that was the Spectral Arrow as he rolled through him. A nice clean combo. And zDan just throws the tether down right away. A big plus of tether, again, is that healing power that it provides. It's going to allow zDan to just remain a lot more aggressive as he stands next to the player he's siphoning health from. He just keeps huge pressure on this poor level 40 that wandered in here. zDan just feeding him a few attacks. This guy actually has a ton of hit points for level 40, and looks like nope, he's not hanging on. He goes down, and now it is just the enemy tank here left. zDan finally hits him with that stun and just keeps feeding him the concealed weapons. The enemy tank not doing much more than just kind of blocking here. Good sidestep on the Donnie, and zDan finishes him off. And of course, we have a bonus clip for you today, brought to you guys by Teaze, and he is playing on his Stamina Necromancer. Gonna show us a little bit of a smack against these players here. I want to thank everybody so much for sending in your clips. If you guys want to check out anybody featured in today's episode, we've got links to their channels down in the description below, so be sure to check out these fine content creators. Of course, if you guys want to send in your own clips for the top 5, or if you even want to send a build to be featured on the channel, you can send that to KristoferESO@hotmail.com. You can check out my website, KristoferESO.com, for written guides to all of my builds, as well as a hub for all of my ESO content. Check me out on Twitter if you guys want to keep up to date with me, and of course, check out my Twitch if you guys want to catch some live gameplay. We are sponsored by What the Fast. They're a VPN for gamers, and they can give you better ping to your favorite games, free to try for the first month. Link down below in the description for you guys. And last but certainly not least, a massive thank you and shout out to all of my patrons on Patreon. Without you guys, I wouldn't be able to do this job, so thank you everybody so much for supporting. Thank you everybody so much again just for tuning in and watching today. I hope to see you next time, and have a great night, everyone.